The growth and popularity of two-handed sailing around the globe, particularly over the past few years, has been phenomenal. A new division for the intrepid crews of only 2 sailors willing to take on the challenges of 628 nautical miles down the coastline of New South Wales, across the notorious Bass Strait and through the often tricky waters of Tasmania's east coast, was to be included for the first time in last year's Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. The cancellation of the 2020 race, only 1 week out from its scheduled start on Boxing Day, however, dashed their hopes of making history. But they have returned in force. Despite the absence of international competitors, particularly European teams who have come to the fore in this format of offshore racing, 17 crews lined up for the start on Boxing Day. This number represented almost 20% of the total fleet. Between the entrants were years of experience and countless previous Rolex Sydney Hobarts aboard fully crewed boats, each competitor entering the new division with their own goals and aspirations. The boats came in many different shapes and sizes. Dedicated, purpose-built offshore greyhounds such as Rupert Henry and Greg O'Shea's Lombard Class 40 Eora, and Rob Goff and John Saul's Acalaria RC2 Sidewinder, both from legendary French designer Marc Lombard, were expected to battle it out for line honours victory. Many smaller offshore optimised boats from 32 to 36 feet were also entered, including 2 J99s and 3 Juno Sunfast models. Others opted for 30 mid-40 foot racer cruisers, modified for the event to make sail changes, trim and handling an easier proposition for 1 or 2 people from back in the cockpit. In the lead-up Audi Centre Sydney Blue Water point score races, the J99s, Jules Hall and Jan Clogs Scholten's Disko Trooper contender Sailcloth, and Shane Connolly and Graham Dunlop's Rum Rebellion had looked impressive, as had Peter Franke and Drew Jones's Sydney 36 Salt Shaker, and Campbell Jeeves and Wendy Tuck's Beneteau 34-7 Speedwell. The many interstaters had been less conspicuous in their preparations, though their pedigrees and results in other offshore races suggested that it would be a highly competitive affair across the two-handed division.
We're pretty set up now. I think we're feeling good. Just want to get on with the job now. Biggest thing on my mind at the moment is to be aware of our tiredness and looking after each other. You know, we've really got to watch each other's sleep patterns and everything and making sure we're both staying on top of our game.
With heavy conditions forecast for at least the first 24 hours, it seemed that the first objective would be to survive the strong southerlies and sharp, unforgiving sea state with minimum damage, as the fleet turned right to head south from Sydney Heads. There were to be many casualties over the next 2 days, with 7 of the 17 starters forced to retire due to an array of issues. A broken backstay, damage to rudder, ripped mainsail as well as engine and autopilot issues. One of the line honours favourites, Eora, was amongst them. Revelling in the conditions, the diminutive Sparkman and Stevens 34 Crux of Carlos Ados and Peter Grayson was looking a solid chance for overall contention under the various handicap systems.
When we heard about all the retirements, we were a little bit surprised, and after hearing some of the experiences of other boats, we realised that we've been, I think, pretty lucky. I think we were maybe on a part of the course where things were not as extreme. We heard that some other boats were exposed to a lot stronger winds.
We were fair way out to sea and just got smacked. I don't know, it was about 35, 36, I don't know what it was. We had number 3 up, 1 reef in at the time. So it was out to the foredeck, get the 3 down, get the energy back, go back, put the 5 up. and got moving, and then literally sat on the floor of the boat, dripping wet, to do the first sked. I guess we were not shell-shocked, but we were kind of a little bit off our game after that.
Like the hard stuff was actually easy, strangely. The bad weather we just had to keep going and keep the boat going as fast as we could, and then we got light winds, and that was just 100% attention for, probably about 12 hours.
That first night, we pushed right out with massive current, reasonably big waves. It was very wet, a lot of water on the boat, in the boat.
Our acceleration is astounding. What we pick up with a tiny gust compared to fully crewed boat is huge. It was mainly preserving our energy and tactics, like how do we take advantage of all the currents that are out there and the wind shifts. And we found ourselves with some conviction out off the New South Wales coast. Yeah, we got headed tacked over and could crack sheets after about an hour of making course. So full credit to Jules to get us in a comfortable position.
Teamwork, Clogs.
Those who made it through these days found the final days of the race to be equally difficult, this time due to the vagaries of the Tasmanian coastline and River Derwent, renowned for their fickleness. In inconsistent and often dying breezes, the tactical skills of the teams were regularly called upon to navigate around the many holes appearing across the racetrack. For many, it was a very hard grind to the finish line in Hobart.
We're pretty good at being even-tempered, I guess.
Yeah.
Wendy loves being at sea more than anyone. A lot of what we just did is unpleasant, and no one here enjoyed a lot of what we just did, except for Wendy.
It is true. I do love being at sea, and lovely downwind is fantastic, but you've got to have that other stuff, and if you just learn to like that, it's all fine. So
I will never learn to like that. No sane human would.
that's a good point.
We're very silly people.
It is a challenge, and managing the fatigue and your stress levels and that sort of stuff. For me, I think the most challenging part was actually being parked in the river and seeing the jokers coming up the other side of the river, and for them to be in front of us.
We hit Tasman Island, and we reckon we had to put in 3 skeds going past Tasman Island because we went backwards and then forwards and backwards. There was absolutely no wind, and 3 boats sailed on the inside of us, and we just lost it there, really. We just couldn't make the boat go fast enough in light air.
In the entrance of Bass Strait, we had no wind. The hopes of getting a really good result was probably out the window, but somehow we managed to get some really good wind towards the end, and I think that's what helped us as well.
There was a lot of races in the race. First night's obviously a lot of talk about that. Windy, rough. But then we went into Bass Strait. We had a massive transition. There was a big trough that we sat in for 12 hours going nowhere. Then we had a beautiful run down the Tassie coast. Then we had another big hole. And then we got around the corner, came home, and then we got to the Derwent. And the last 9 miles took 4.5 hours. Painful, long hours, Clogs, weren't they?
In the wash-up, Sidewinder comfortably took line honours ahead of Disko Trooper with a significant lead over Saltshaker, who only just held out Grant Chipperfield and Peter Downey aboard Joker Ontura for 3rd place by the tightest margin in this year's Rolex Sydney Hobart, only 13 seconds. Overall victory in all 3 handicap divisions went to Disko Trooper contender Sailcloth, ahead of the evergreen design of the S&S 34 Crux. 3rd places went to Speedwell in IRC Handicap, Saltshaker in ORCI, and Mark Stewart and Richard Combrink's Beneteau First 42, Euphoria 2 in PHS.
We are a small boat with a small budget, and to get here just to finish was pretty cool for us, but to finish on a podium is just unbelievable.
We had a vague theory the boat would do okay in IRC, but the plan was to get here, and to get here under our own steam is pretty amazing.
But perhaps there was more at stake to the inaugural two-handed division than just the prizes. At the dock in Hobart afterwards, everyone spoke of the joy of competing with each other and the shared camaraderie. All were justifiably proud of what they'd achieved in finishing such a brutal and demanding race that had taken them 4 or 5 days to complete. It was an experience they'll never forget.
All accolades to Disko Trooper and all the other competitors.
They sailed an amazing race.
Yeah, and there's a lovely camaraderie between all the two-handed. There's a lovely sense of oneness, which is quite invigorating.
For Jules and Clogs, they're the first name on that trophy. That's pretty cool. And for us to go down in history of being part of the first two-hander, that's pretty cool. That's a big deal. And I think it's only starting to head in now.
By the end of the race, we're probably more or less ready to do the race.
We think we should do the race again now because we know what we're doing, sort of.
A big shout out to all the two-handers. Like this, it's been such good camaraderie in this fleet. We've all helped each other, we've shared ideas, and you get here and we're so delighted to see so many of the fleet get through, be here, and well done to all of them.
The two-handed division has unquestionably now become part of the Rolex Sydney Hobart's long and rich history. It will be interesting to see how many international entrants make the journey down to Australia to compete once international borders are fully open again. We'd certainly love to have them here in 2022. And they will no doubt be joining a growing number of local sailors who'll rise to the challenges that two-handed sailing offers.
The winning boat 19 sitting to Hobarts, and both of them laser sailors that sail really, really well. So it's a great class. I think it's a fabulous addition. It had to come. I think it's the future certainly for us. Anyway.
So definitely, I would say after this race, it would be really hard to convince me to do long offshore races on the fully crewed boat. I am totally sold to short-handed. I think, it's much actually easier from my perspective.
There was nerves, wasn't there? Before the start, it's a big event. We knew we were going to some rough weather. And I don't think we were nervous, scared, but you're anxious. I think it'll sink in. I don't think I sit here and go, don't look in awe at what we've done. I think we had, we had a plan that we've executed, and I think it will sink in. It's a big old thing to sail a boat two-handed from Sydney down to Hobart across that open ocean.
The 2021 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race is proudly supported by Rolex, the Royal Yacht Club of Tasmania, Transport for New South Wales, Tourism Tasmania, Events Tasmania, Tasports, City of Hobart, the Tasman, Sail Media, Flight Risk Media, and Hype TV. The Cruising Yacht Club of Australia would like to thank all partners and sponsors for the 2021 Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race.